Some things are just facts of life. You don't bite downwards, you bite upwards due to your lower jaw. The opposite sides of a dice always add up to 7. And if you're missing an arm and it gets replaced by a fairly obvious piece of what looks like elaborate jewelry with magical powers, everyone should notice it. So why isn't this the case in Tears of the Kingdom? Is Link's arm real? Is there a restriction on who can see it? Can everyone see it, yet everyone is so scared that they dare not mention it? Or are we just seeing political correctness gone mad? That is what this video is all about. Link's arm, and the general acceptance that with a flick of Link's arm, he can fix and solve all of the people of Hyrule's mechanical woes. So strap in, because this is going to be one hell of an ultra-handed ride through the lands of Hyrule to discover whether or not Link's arm is even real. At the very start of the game, Link and Zelda are exploring the chambers underneath Hyrule Castle, where they find the husk of Ganondorf being sealed in place by a magical arm. Rarut's Secret Stone, which by the way is the worst name for these magical stones that seem to enhance elemental powers further than what the holder already has, drops to the floor from his arm shattering, and Zelda finds herself in possession of the stone, which transforms into the Stone of Light / Stone of Time that the King of Evil once stole from Queen Sonia. The stone's power awakening seems to awaken Ganondorf, and he and his Gloom, sorry, that's one name change I cannot get behind, and his magical power alone is enough to crumble the ground underneath Zelda's feet, while a physical manifestation of the Gloom attacks the Master Sword, and therefore Link's arm along with it, seemingly burning and scalding Link's arm until it is nothing but a black mess, an effect that carries on through Link's body, coursing through his very veins and sapping his life force. A full 37 hearts and 2 wheels of stamina are ripped from Link. Zelda's glowy stone glows, and she's transported, while Link has the same arm that Ganondorf was sealed by reach to him and grab him after he leaps into the abyss where Zelda falls into. Link finds himself awake on an island in the sky, a piece of jewelry around his arm that's been heavily damaged by the gloom. This gold circlet design that wraps its way from Link's elbow downwards is more than just a fashion accessory though, and it holds power inside of it that was lost to the Zonai. Raru explains that the arm is his, and Link will be able to possess its power should he go through the trial of the shrines, the same as he must do to earn the paraglider in Breath of the Wild. And those powers are just insane. I won't go into all of these powers today because we already know all of them, but these powers, the arm, and generally everyone's reactions are what I think we should look at today. See, the arm is all good and well, and Link can do some wonderful things with it, but it's not until we get back down to the ground level that things get a little bit weird. Weird how? Well, no one even stops to look at your arm, let alone the powers that it has. It is accepted in a world where no other character has a prosthetic body part, and so prosthetics are just not commonplace. This arm is just, well, normal. If it was just a prosthetic, I would have no problem with this. The people of Hyrule are just generally very politically correct, and don't stare at things that aren't different or don't mention it because it's the norm to not mention a lack of normality in case of being rude. But this isn't a normal arm. It does crazy things, and all the people of Hyrule do is cower when an item is brought too close to them. When we get to our first stables, the new Seren stable at Hyrule Ridge, we find Zumi. Zumi wants her horse-drawn carriage rebuilt as the wheels have come off and her horse has run away. Link obliges, catching her horse before setting about fixing her carts with Ultrahand. You, as the player, need to complete the horse-drawn dreams quest by placing the wheels back on the axles that are already placed on the car. It's a pretty simple puzzle to solve, but as we're at the start of using Ultrahand as a technique, it feels clunky and it takes a little time to get the wheel in place perfectly. Finally, you do so, but as you do, you bring the wheel too close to Zumi. Her reaction is interesting. She cowers, presumably from the part moving too close to her in a supernatural sort of way. There's no indication of her seeing the green stream of magic connecting you to the wheel. She doesn't seem to react to Link twisting his arm to make the wheel move. There's just reaction in general to the wheel itself. And this is replicated throughout other instances of this sort of thing happening throughout the game also. Addison, a devotee of Hudson Construction, has been tasked with placing signs to advertise the construction company that has grown massively since Link helped them rebuild Tarrey Town in Breath of the Wild. The irony here is that an employee of a construction company can't even construct a sign so that it can stand up on its own. As with every one of these signs, you need to build a structure of some form that keeps the sign upright. So, how does Addison react to an item flying too close to him? He freezes in terror. The item just flies towards him. He sees nothing of the magic, nothing of the arm at all. I mean, he literally cowers. But you would expect, perhaps after the first time, that maybe he would change his focus and tell Link to cut it out with trying to end his life via sudden moving planks of wood dropping on his head. But no, he freezes in terror. There isn't even an acknowledgement that Link is trying to fix the sign, or that he's the one in control of the items until the mission is completed. It's at this point that both Zumi and Addison thank Link for fixing the cart or keeping the sign upright. The thank you, in fact, throughout the entirety of the game, is the only acknowledgement Link is even helping these people, and that could be explained away in one very simple way. Link tells them that he fixed the problem. Yep, our mute hero is not in fact mute. He can talk. The game developers have just stuck to the idea that you are the hero, you are Link, so the idea that he does not speak very much on camera has remained. But trust me here, Link talks, and he actually talks a lot. First of all, every time you're given a choice in your narrative between effectively saying yes or no, that is Link talking. Secondly, it's acknowledged that he talks when speaking to the stable trotters, where it is actually commented on about how Link's voice sounds. Beats literally describes Link's voice as strong and clear. With this information at hand, as well as the whoas he tells his horse every time he wants it to slow down, that Link speaks a lot more than we have given any form of credit for, we can now go back to Addison, Zumi, and any other characters that we help along the way. If Link fixes a problem, and then speaks to the person who the problem was creating an issue for, it would be very easy to assume that in a non-gloating way, or maybe even in a gloating way, depending on if he's expecting a reward, which, to be fair, is pretty safe to assume that he is, that he almost opens his dialogue when talking to someone with something along the lines of, I just fixed your, whatever it is. He outright tells them that he solved the problem. And while that puts the person who wanted their item in a bit of a bind, i.e., they have to give a reward for Link's action as they're obliged to do the nice thing in return, it means that the NPC in question does not have to have noticed the stream of green energy, or the big sticky green glue patch, or the fact that Link is controlling the parts that are moving. So, that's NPCs that need our help sorted out. But what about this scene with Purah? When we get to Lookout Landing and we approach Purah, she instantly looks at Link's arm and proclaims, that looks interesting. So that's this theory completely debunked by one line from Purah, right?
Hold it!
Yeah, not so fast. So Purah notices Link's arm, but does she actually notice what is around Link's arm, or does she just purely notice the fact that Link's arm is mangled? Is that what she's seeing that looks interesting? That Link has one crispy fried arm, as opposed to both arms? And if she's seeing that, then why is her reaction what it is and not like, I don't know, concern for the hero? I mean, if you're being as close to someone and they lose their arm, you would almost automatically want to know what happened. But her concern is almost a non-point. She almost seems to want to study his arm, which, as a scientist, she would definitely want to do. But is it the adornment that she wants to study? Well, probably not. See, Link has made no effort at this point to use any ability around Purah, so she has no knowledge of what the arm can do. She doesn't know that it contains the power of the sages, that he can phase through ceilings or control items at his own will. So, why would the gold banding look interesting to her? Well, that's just the thing. I don't think it does. I don't think it looks interesting at all, because she doesn't see the gold banding. She just sees the burnt arm. The arm corrupted by the gloom. And it looks interesting because it's the first real instance of seeing anyone up close with a true gloom affliction. Yes, according to these guys at the Hyrule Chasm, the gloom causes sickness and makes people weaker. But this is a full affliction. All of Link's power as a Knight of Hyrule has been destroyed completely by the gloom. It would make a lot more sense, given the state of events around Lookout Landing, that Purah would find Link's arm, having been normal before he went down into the depths to find Ganondorf, and him returning with an arm that looks like he's been sweeping chimneys for the last 10 years, incredibly interesting. The simple fact that she acknowledges his arm is something at least though. But why is it only her that mentions it? I mean, I get it, if she feels like she's close enough to Link to mention it, but arguably so are both Riju and Sidon. Neither of these two mention Link's powers either, or mention his arm at all. It's like, once again, they just don't see it. The killer question here though, is this the same for every character in Tears of the Kingdom? Is it true that no one at all can see the arm that Link has, or not? Is it something that is completely invisible to all, or are there parameters and therefore characters that can see the arm? And what about those like Addison that keep on seeing the supernatural events of items propping up his signs? How does he not understand that it's Link fixing things every single time, And why does he not ask why or how? Okay, so there are 22 main characters in Tears of the Kingdom, and this includes a few bit part characters like Tiba and Yona. There are also 45 quest-giving NPCs in the game as well, and in all truth some of these are voices that are not attached to bodies, such as Zelda's voice who asks you to find her. Of these, only 2 reference Link's arm full stop, and neither directly address the arm. I've already covered one of these, Pura, but the other is more interesting still. That character is Master Kogha. Kogha again is wreaking havoc, but this time is expecting a reawakening of Ganondorf to happen. Little does he know that it's already happened, and is looking to try and build Ganondorf the ultimate weapon to appease his master. It's during one of these segments underground that you find the auto-build ability and defeat him for the first time. That isn't the interesting part though, as Kogha again doesn't seem to comment on your arm despite the fact that you and he, according to him at least, are mortal enemies. Surely you would notice and not actually be considered rude for pointing that out on your enemy, because rudeness isn't a factor enemies tend to care too much about. In fact, as a tangent here, within a world of 67 quest-giving characters, and countless others to talk to, you would think that one person would comment and not be so politically correct or conscious of the great hero's feelings. I mean, he is the hero of Hyrule, so surely they would know exactly what he looks like by now. He is by now, for all intents and purposes, a celebrity. When you meet him later on, you see Kogha stood inside one of the abandoned mines. He is pressing on it with his right hand, the same as Link does, but cannot activate the stone at all. He grows frustrated with this, but when you approach him he doesn't blame your new fancy arm, he just says he did exactly what you did, and that you tricked him. Now, I get that Kogha is a few sandwiches short of a picnic, but seriously, how can you not see that Link's arm is the reason for the gate activating? If the only thing that is different is the fact that Link has a gold coupling around his arm and Link can activate these stones but Kogha can't, then surely 2 + 2 = 4 on this. And it's easy enough as a conclusion for Kogha to make, but no, he doesn't even reference the arm. It's like he can't see it. This running theme, no one being able to see the arm or the magic that comes from it, that goes hand in hand with the idea that no one has seen the Zonai for years. This arm is of course a Zonai artifact. In fact, I'm not actually sure anyone in the game references the constructs which have fallen down to Hyrule along with the Sky Islands either. Looking at it, this is probably the best example. The construct at the Crystal Refinery. We see multiple people see the island having fallen alongside the structure of the refinery, yet not one of them mentions the construct on the island. This leads me to believe something very simple. The Zonai only appear to those that they want to appear to. This includes the constructs. This includes the images and apparitions of Rauru and Sonia, and most importantly, it includes Raru's arm, Link's new arm from the game. That's right, I propose that not one singular character in the game can actually see Link's arm, not even those closest to Link. Link doesn't mention the gold coupling because it's all a reminder that he failed to save Zelda, and no one else mentions it because they just don't see it. They just see that Link has fixed their horse cart, or that Link has magically appeared through the floor in front of them and scared the hell out of them. Ascend, though, is a matter for another day. But for now, I think based on everything we've seen, that we can conclude that Link's arm is not visible to the naked eye. The parameter upon it is that the only person that can see it is Link, as no one else close to him even mentions it, or seems to see it. But if you want further proof, just like we've done before, this chapter is completely spoilerific. I think we're all past the point now on this channel where we can't talk about spoilers, and I know some of you are itching to talk about it, so let's talk. However, if you don't want to hear it, now is your cue to stop watching this video. If you've liked what you've seen so far, please subscribe to the channel for more content on Tears of the Kingdom, and don't forget to click the like button and leave a comment in the comments below. But for now, let's talk the end game. At the end of the game, Zelda is turned back into a human from being a dragon by the powers of Rauru and Sonia. They channel their energy of time and light through Link, and by doing this, Link finds his magical arm completely disappearing, healed, as if nothing happened. Link's arm is back to normal, the gloom damage destroyed, despite the fact that it remained after Link destroyed Ganondorf. This meant the gloom damage to his arm remained, yet the power of light and time was a singular healing factor. The sage bands, as I'm calling them, around his arm completely disappear, and in the bonus scene, gained for viewing all of the Dragon's Tears, Link is seen on a Sky Island with both arms intact. That's not a big shock, right? No. But the shock is that no one else is shocked about it. No one once, not even Link's closest friends and allies, even stopped to mention his arm. It's like it was always like this, like no one could even see that arm was ever damaged to begin with. It's like it was all his own eyes' will, so to speak. Only those they wanted to see Link's arm could see it for what it was, or those that had the technology to see it. And this is where I circle all the way back to Purah. Purah sees the arm, yes, but when she looks at it, her goggles are down. Those goggles look like they could have been created to see things that are not in plain view. Perhaps she is the only one that can see the Zonai creations, including Link's arm, because she simply engineered a way to see it. And this is why she is the only person in the game that somewhat references it. And with that, we've covered every loose end that seems to still be present in the game, and the conclusion looks the same. But what do you think? Is Link's arm and therefore all Zonai creations invisible to the naked eye for every character that isn't Link? Let me know in the comments below. As per usual, thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. I'll see you next time.